So, friends, in the last two lectures, we dealt with the issue of quantitative versus qualitative methods. What are relative merits and demerits of each, and we have also discussed various types of tools and techniques of data collection that are used by sociologists in general and population researchers in particular to collect data on population trends, on social characteristics and relationship between population and social variables. Today in this lecture, I will focus on what are various sources of data on population trends. Now, every time I talk about population issues, I refer to population census. Census is one of the most important sources of population data. Other sources are vital registration scheme, sample registration scheme or dual record system. Actually, it is called dual record system, but in our country for some reason I will explain what that reason is. It is called sample registration scheme. And then there are national and sub-national surveys. Census is the most reliable and most commonly used source of data, which provides information on size of population, growth of population as well as composition of population. Size means number, what is the total number of person inhabiting a particular area or a particular region or a particular country. Composition of population means what is the breakup of that number according to age, sex, marital status, religion, caste or community. And growth means at what rate is size growing. Like somebody can say that the population of India today is around 1.2 billion and the growth rate of India's population is 1.7%, and then can further discuss that 35% of India's population is below the age of 15, something like this. So, census gives us data on size, growth and composition of population. India is one of those very few countries which have a long record of conducting census in uninterrupted manner. First census in India was conducted in early 1870s. Since it was not a synchronous census in the sense that enumeration was not done at the same point of time in all parts of the country. In some parts it was 1871, some parts 1872, in some parts 1873. So, we do not assign a date to this census, but after that starting from 1881 to 2001, we have had uninterrupted decadal censuses. Very few countries in the world have this record of conducting census continuously for over a centuries. It is a remarkable thing to achieve. And the main purpose of census is to provide data on size, composition of population, geographic divisions, means state in India government would be interested in knowing what is the size of population of different states, different regions, union territories, districts, blocks and villages. So far generally demographic data is shown mostly at the state national level and state level, but now due to demand of planning we are also going down to district level, and an attempt is being made to estimate birth rate, death rate, infant mortality rate and other parameters of population at the district level. And it is recommended, or as the trend show, maybe in coming decade or in 10 to 15 years time, there will be attempts to calculate these rates at the block and ultimately at the village level. Already some discussion is going on in planning commission. Like you know about human development index of UNDP. So, initially these human development indices were prepared by UNDP at the national level for a number of countries for which data on literacy, life expectancy and income existed, they have computed Human Development Index. Now, countries of our size have also attempted to calculate Human Development Index at the state level. So, today we have Human Development Index for almost all states of India, and attempts are being made to calculate Human Development Index for districts. Maybe in the future, if we can make Human Development Indices available at the block and village level, that will help us a lot in macro and micro planning. So, census data ultimately we need at block and village level. Census collects data from each individual living in the country on a number of items. I think you should also know what are the items on which we collect information in census. There are some items, last time there were 22 items on which we collected data in census through individual slips. Sometimes students think that as though all kinds of data are collected in censuses, and the first thing that comes to sociologist's mind is that we have data on poverty or income from census figure. No, we do not have question on income, we do not have a question on poverty, but there are many other things very important for planning on which we have data. We have data on age distribution. So, in individual slip we ask question on age in completed years, what is your age, and we can make single year age distribution, we can make distributions in age groups. We know about sex distribution, sex composition of population, urban rural residence, what number of people are living in urban areas, what in rural areas, and in urban areas further we can divide into classes of cities and towns. Then marital status, married, unmarried, separated, widowed, divorced. Religion, from religious data from census you know that about 82% population of India belongs to Hindu religion, this percentage belongs to Muslim, that 2% belongs to Sikhs or Christians, and that Parsis are very small in number. Work status, how many are working, how many are not working, and among those who are working, what is the industrial and occupational classification of the workers. Industry means the major activity at the workplace, and occupation means the activity of the person. In manufacturing industry, for example, there can be clerical works. So, those who are indulged in clerical works, for them occupation is clerical, but industry is manufacturing. Industry can be service, somebody is working in health or insurance or transport and communication, you can say that he is working in service industry, but exact occupation is what that person is doing. Migration status, there are a number of questions on migration, place of birth, place of last residence, duration of residence and region for move. The recent censuses have also provided data on total number of children ever born. This question is asked in India only to married women. It can be very embarrassing. India is not Germany or Ireland, where in some of these developed countries, as once we saw while I was discussing world population trend, in some of these countries 60 to 70% children are born outside the wedlock, but India is not that. In India, children outside wedlock will be considered illegitimate. So, this question is asked only to married women, and whether any child was born last year and the total number of children ever born, and children surviving. By comparing children born and children surviving, you can estimate child mortality rate. In certain censuses, we also collected data on ex-defense personnel. In certain censuses, we collected data on school enrollment rate. In certain censuses, we collected data on disabled population, but type of disability. Last time we collected data on disability, and we have a fairly good estimate of what is the total number of persons physically challenged according to nature of challenge or nature of disability. Census data are used for demographic estimates, which includes estimate of size, growth, fertility, mortality, projections of populations, what is going to be India's population 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 50 years from now, and various planning purposes. They are also used to provide sampling frame for national and sub-national surveys. For PhD students, like this use of census is more important. When PhD students go to collect their data on sample basis, to collect sample, they will need a sampling frame if they go for simple random sample. These days in social sciences, more people are going for theoretical sampling and no sampling frame may be required. But in national level surveys, NFHS, RCS, youth survey, tobacco survey, the issue of representation of sample always arises, and you will find that most of the time these national and sub-national surveys have used census wards maps for selecting the sampling frame. Then census data are also collected on household character. Normally in population field we analyze data collected through individual slips, which means age, sex, marital status, labor, migration, fertility, mortality, but there is huge amount of data in census which is about the households or houses, on amenities, kacha house, pakka house, electricity, toilet, number of rooms, material of walls, so many things. Whether there is a separate room for married couple, which can be important for family planning and related issues. So, lot of these data are there and you can make use of. When you are using census data, then you will also like to assess the quality of data. So, the issue of errors in census data. Errors may arise due to preferences or avoidance of figures, like in age data. The age data suffers from the problem of age heaping. There are errors due to preference and avoidance of figures ending in certain digits. So, your age may be say 19, and when census enumerator goes to your house and asks a question to your mother or to your father what your age is, in place of 19 they may say 20. This is what preference for digit 0 mean. So, those who are of age 19 or those who are of age 21 may be reported of age 20. So, there is usually a preference for 0 and 5 and avoidance of 9 and 3, sometimes 7 is also avoided. In different cultures, different digits are preferred or avoided. In groups also, like in age group 0 to 5, there is usually under enumeration. In age group 5 to 10, there is generally an over enumeration, but 0 to 10 is more or less okay. So, there are demographers have shown what kind of errors creep in census data and how can be adjusted for errors. In the past, post enumeration checks have shown that the size of India's population was underestimated by about 2%. In despite corruption and everything, census figures of India are believed to be quite accurate, and post enumeration check also shows that there is not more error than say 2% in any census. In some censuses it was 1%, some censuses 1.7%, some census 1.2%, but generally that error, extent of error in Indian census total size of population is less than 2%. It is because in village setup, most people in India live in villages, and in villages everybody knows everybody. So, even if enumerator does not go door to door, sits at one place and writes about records of all the people, names may be wrongly written, many things may be wrongly written, but as far as total number of persons is concerned, family members, children, old, there is very high chance that the numbers are correctly reported and there is not much error. Some other items suffer from errors. Data on fertility, for example, suffers from errors. So, estimate of total fertility rate from census would not be accurate, and demographers therefore develop various analytical, statistical or mathematical techniques for estimating total fertility rate more exactly using census age distribution or data on number of children. When census data are used for population predictions, they have to be adjusted for all types of errors known to be present in the age data as well as in all other items or other contents of population. You want to know more about census, then this is the site, and you can get lot of data from 2001 census. Now you know that 2011 census is going on. Household survey is almost completed. Individual slips enumeration will start in January. They wanted to start early, but this year, but due to that issue of caste, whether caste should be included in not in census or not, the census operation may be slightly delayed. So far on the issue of caste, you know that we ask only whether somebody belongs to scheduled caste or tribe. If yes, then whether to scheduled caste or scheduled tribe. In census, we do not ask what your exact caste is. So, census can tell you that this percentage of people belong to scheduled caste, this percentage to scheduled tribe, but census cannot tell you how many of scheduled castes are chamars, how many scheduled castes are dhobis. The idea is that we do not want to go deeper into the caste issue. We think that such things can these feelings already of caste is in everyday life. So, we do not want to ask exact question about caste. Now, regarding OBC, a consensus is developing that we will ask whether you belong to OBC, and using the same model as of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, we will only find out what is the total percentage of OBCs in India and in different states of India. We are not interested in specific caste, whether somebody is this or that. Data products of census are these administrative divisions. You get data for different administrative divisions, you get data on population, economic activities, socio-cultural. Socio-cultural means education, education is a socio-cultural, marital status, that is socio-cultural. Then migration, migration on the basis of place of birth, you get how many people are moving from where to where and what are the causes, and you can using certain analytical techniques also calculate the net migration rate, which states like UP and Bihar are two net out migrating states in India, and certain other states Maharashtra, Delhi and Karnataka, they are net in migrating states. Then you have data on disability. Last census gave you lot of data on disability, languages, mother tongue. We ask questions on mother tongue. We also ask question on another language known. Then household population, size of household from household data, area profile of India, state districts, village directory, which can be of special interest to sociologists. We have complete village directory, means complete information about socio-economic characteristics of population of each village in India. This also includes whether some fairs are held, which months, where. Then we have list of towns with population, and we also have census reference tables, which you can see from the website. Census also provides maps. Some maps are present on net, but if you want detailed maps, you know, in our studies when we require maps of villages or blocks or districts, we often take the help of census. You can go to Registrar General's office and ask for maps of country, states, districts, blocks, villages. Like in the study of mapping of high risk groups, we required detailed maps of districts, blocks and villages, so that we could exactly identify how many high risk groups are there and where they are located. So, census provides lot of maps, administrative maps, state maps, theme based maps. They also develop theme based maps, means the map will show what is the position of literacy in different regions of the country, town maps and other map products. I thought I must show you some examples of maps which I have taken from the net. Here source is also given. This is censusindia.net. This is the map of population of India. This is a kind of thematic map. This is a map of India which shows the differences in growth rates of population in different states of India. More the color is dark, higher is the rate of growth of that population. The rate of growth of India's population in different states and union territories goes from less than 20 for the whole decade, means 1991 to 2001. So, 20 will mean 2% per year. So, there are states and union territories where rate of growth has been less than 2% per year, and there are states and union territories or small parts where rate of growth could be as high as 5% per year. 5%, 5 is a big number, and you see a dark point here in northeast. In northeast you find a dark color in certain portion, and that is because of illegal migration from Bangladesh. You cannot have a rate of growth of 5% per year simply due to natural growth or fertility minus mortality. Wherever you have very high rate of growth in India, there are some places, and mostly they are the border districts of India, that is mostly because of illegal migration of people from Bangladesh, or they must be large cities like Delhi or Bangalore or Chennai, which are growing at a very fast rate. They will show these maps will show them in darker color than otherwise. And Census has made these kinds of maps which can be used by sociologists and demographers. Gender gap, this is an interesting map for you students of sociology. This is gender gap, and this shows gap in literacy, means male literacy rate minus female literacy rate. This is not male literacy or female literacy, this is gender gap in literacy, and darker is the color of some area, greater is the gap between male and female literacy there. And you find that very red part here where you have high gap. In much of extreme north there is very little gap. In extreme south towards Kerala also there is very little gap. In states like Kerala, gap is little because female literacy has advanced to high level, and in states like Bihar there is big gap because female literacy is particularly low. Male literacy has improved, female literacy has not improved. But this if one looks at this map, then it is obvious that there is a big gender gap in literacy in the country. However, there are significant differences in gender gap according to state, region or district, and this map shows that quite clearly. Population density, though we calculate density of population at the national level, and India's density of population is quite high, not as high as of say Europe, but as not as low also as in African countries. It is something in between, but there are significant variations. You can see that there are some areas where density of population is more than 1000 per square kilometer, and there are areas where density of population is less than 250 per square kilometer. Light color shows low density and dark color shows high density of population. UP belongs to that area where density of population is high. In South India, Kerala, you find that Kerala also has high density of population. Actually, when some 15-20 years ago, when everybody was talking of Kerala model in demographic transition, I said that Kerala model is not good. It cannot be replicated anywhere else for two reasons. One, that socio-economic conditions of other states are not same as of Kerala, and second, Kerala has the highest density of population. So, you can also imagine that when Madhya Pradesh or Gujarat or Rajasthan reach that density of population, there will be some inbuilt response of the population to reduce their birth rate. It is not unpredictable that Kerala has a low birth rate of population today. Among sociologists, Sorokin, who related birth rate to density of population, he said that once the density of population goes up, then birth rate will come down. That may be the reason why Kerala today has below replacement fertility. But UP, much of this North India, much of this part on the northern eastern side has high density of population, and this is also the place where fertility is high. But there is no perfect connection between the two. UP, Bihar have high density of population and also fertility is high, but you can also see that there are other areas where density of population is high, but fertility is not so high. Then another source is vital registration system. Vital registration system maintains data on births and deaths on a continuous basis. Demographers need data on fertility and mortality also, direct data, and vital registration system is the source of direct data on births and deaths. These data come from vital registration system, in which all vital events, births and deaths, along with certain characteristics of parents in case of birth and disease in case of death are recorded. Age, sex, in case of death, cause of death, in case of birth, order of birth. So, there are some standardized performa, some schedules for this, and apart from births and deaths, some other information is also available. These data are collected and maintained on a continuous basis. In India, we are legally bound to report occurrence of births and deaths to local registrar, village headman or pradhan in rural areas, and a municipal registrar in urban areas. And the act is Registration of Births and Deaths Rate, Births and Deaths Act, RBD Act 1969. But despite this, our vital registration data is not very good. The coverage and quality or the extent of reporting, they are quite poor. And because in the past people did not require birth certificate or death certificate. In urban areas today, if you go to admit your child in school, they will immediately ask for birth certificate. So, in urban areas now people are becoming more conscious, and data on births and deaths is also improving, but in rural areas still, in backward regions, quality of data is not so good. Head of household is responsible. In case of institutional births and deaths, institutions or in charges of institutions are expected to report these events to local registrar. And since vital registration system is the only and direct source of data on births and deaths, and despite this act of Birth and Death Registration Act, we do not have good quality data. So, India has come up with an innovative idea to collect data on births and deaths on a continuous basis. This is called sample registration scheme. This is also called dual registration system or dual record system. Why dual? Because this sample registration system is a large scale demographic survey for providing reliable annual estimates of birth rate, death rate and other fertility and mortality indicators at the national and subnational level. It was initiated in 1964-65 on a pilot basis, and gradually by 1969-70 it became fully operational in most parts of the country. What is done is that certain units from different states of India are selected as samples, and field investigators maintain continuous records of births and deaths, and this may be done by local Anganwadi workers, teachers, primary school teachers, and then an independent survey is conducted by a team of investigators sent from Delhi. So, you have two sources of data on births and deaths on continuous basis. One, the data that are recorded by Anganwadi workers or teachers or some other people at the local grassroots workers, village level workers may also be assigned this, and then data collected through a sample survey 6 monthly by team of investigators sent from Delhi, and births and deaths events are matched in the two sources. In cases you find mismatch, that there is an event reported by Anganwadi worker, but you did not find this event in the survey, or there is some event which you found in the survey, but was not reported by Anganwadi worker. These mismatches are re-verified, and in this way we try to obtain a more accurate picture of births and deaths. SRS sample is replaced every 10 years. Last time it was done in 2004 on the basis of 2001 census, but it should have been revised after that, but it has not been revised so far. There are 4,433 rural areas and 3,164 urban areas, which cover 1.5 million households and 7.10 million population. So, we have our for practical purposes, our sample size of SRS is 71 lakh population of India, and with this large sample we are able to provide estimates of birth rates and death rates, infant mortality rate and maternal mortality ratio, and many other things on national and state level. In addition, we have national sample surveys, NSSO. Economists are bigger users of NSSO data, but sociologists have also made use of NSSO data on poverty, unemployment, consumption expenditure, migration, health. From time to time NSS, there are certain items fixed on which in every round NSSO collects some data, and there are some items on which data are collected periodically. So, morbidity or health or migration are such issues on which periodically data are collected in NSSO, and you can get lot of secondary data from NSSO. Unfortunately, in our country most students work with their own primary data. In sociology this is the trend, but lot of very good quality of data is lying with census office, NSSO, and you need not collect in place of wasting your time and resources on collecting data. You can just borrow their raw data and go for a deeper analysis. In addition, you have some other national level surveys, National Family Health Survey, Reproductive and Child Health Survey. There have been 3 National Family Health Surveys, 1, 2, 3. There are and NFHS provides data at the state level. Since we also require data at the district level, so NFHS was supplemented by reproductive and child health surveys, and then youth survey was done. Now, tobacco survey, substance use surveys, many other surveys are going on, which will help the planners in estimating incidence of HIV, risk behavior, and making proper plans to deal with them. National Family Health Survey, first time it was done in 92, 93, then 98, 99, and third survey was done in 2005, 06. NFHS 3 is marked for one additional thing, that for the first time in India somebody used biomarker in the survey. Biomarker means that in addition to asking questions on different socioeconomic demographic characteristics, on sample basis with the consent of the respondents, their blood was collected, and anemia and HIV tests were done. So, now we can say with greater confidence that this is the rate of anemia among women of India, and these are statewide variations, or what is the real prevalence rate of HIV. Before that the estimate of HIV was around 55 lakhs, and after this NFHS 3 on the basis of biomarkers, then it came down to a figure in 30s. So, the estimate of HIV prevalence was reduced by about 40%. So, this is a new phenomenon, and maybe some of you when you do your PhD or you take up higher research, you can also think of innovative things like use of biomarker in your surveys. Reproductive child health surveys provide data at the district level, and these are the items on which you can get data from RCS surveys. You get data on use of family planning methods, women using modern methods of family planning, married women having unmet need for family planning, means they do not want additional children, but they are not using family planning methods. Why? Then antenatal care, institutional delivery, safe delivery, children receiving complete vaccination, knowledge of HIV/AIDS, symptoms of RTI, STI, knowledge of comprehensive knowledge of HIV/AIDS, then among men symptoms of RTI, STI, and rural women who were visited by ANM during 3 months prior to the survey. RCS report produced data on the above variables for states and union territories and district. District was the main concern. It also produced bivariate tables linking the above variables to urban rural residents, caste, scheduled tribe and others, education. 3 categories were made: illiterate, 0 to 9 years education, 10 and above. This 10 and above is very interesting. Although we have high fertility in India, but if you look at figures of fertility by education, you find that among women who are high school pass, we are already at the level of 2.1. So, among women in all states of India, urban, rural, among women who are high school pass, our total fertility rate has already come down to replacement level, and that is why you see in our population policy and announcements, policy announcement by ministers, concerned ministers, we want to raise education level among women to 10 or more. Once we have 10 and more, then our population problems can be solved without spending so much time and money on family planning program. Then there are other surveys in addition to NSSO, NFHS, RCH. You have surveys conducted by various government agencies and research institutions. These government agencies are Operations Research Group, Pathfinders, MODE, MARG, PRIA, these CARE, ActionAid. These organizations are also conducting surveys. Some of them are big, some are small. Sometimes government organizations, some ministries, rural development ministries or Ministry of Youth or Tribal Affairs, they also collect. Actually, in the field of population, some of these national and subnational surveys done by private agencies have played a very important role. I remember that the first family planning survey in India was done by Operations Research Group, not by any government agency. Similarly, these organizations like MODE, MARG, PRIA, ActionAid, there are some donor organizations, there are some research organizations, purely research organizations, they are constantly collecting data on various aspects. And in this age of internet, even data collected by smaller researchers or universities and colleges can be accessed. Some data are available on the net, and about some data you have reference on the net, and you can write to researchers and get raw data or analyze data from them and use those data in your research. So, this is all I wanted to say. Now, you may ask some questions. I believe that I will be able to answer here.
Sir, with reference to the census, I would like to ask you 2 questions. You said census has 22 items.
Yes.
It lists 22 items. So, is this a fixed number, or can it be increased or decreased year wise? Every census has this fixed number?
And the next question?
And the next is that you said census provides us with a sampling frame.
Yes.
Could you elaborate on what is a sampling frame?
Okay. As far as this number of questions is concerned, it is not fixed. There are some questions which have always been asked because they are concerned, they are supposed to be of great importance to demographers and planners, age, sex, marital status. But from time to time, planning commission or different ministries or different research institutions, they can suggest that for the planning purposes or for understanding some important national phenomenon, some new questions are to be added or some questions can be dropped. Like at one time question on school enrollment was added, then it was dropped, because at that time it was thought that the data on education coming from Ministry of Education may not be so reliable. It was biased, and it came out to be biased, because when census data on enrollment came, we found that there were several states and several districts, and particularly among women, enrollment rates were very low, and Ministry of Education was showing that enrollment is universal. Then at one time we collected data on defense personnel, ex-army person. In subsequent censuses it was dropped. Then we collected data on physically handicapped. First time we collected data on physically handicapped people last time. So, so there are questions which are added and dropped, and in 2011 census for the first time we are asking question on caste. I do not know what final decision will be taken, but with regard to migration there was a feeling among demographers that place of birth is okay, but place of last residence, or either you ask place of birth or you ask place of last residence, it's wastage of resources to ask both the questions, place of birth and place of last residence. Before a census operation starts, 5 years, 10 years before that preparations start, and there are conferences and seminars of data users in which members of planning commission, experts, sociologists, economists, political scientists, civil society people, activists, journalists, administrators, all kinds of people participate, and they propose that in the next census these questions must be included, because there is some national need to understand which we require data. And finally, some consensus is reached, because you cannot ask 50 questions in census. For more questions or in-depth information, you depend on surveys. So, this second question was about sampling frame, because census can give you exact maps, demographic and geographical maps of all parts, going up to the minutest details of village level, and these wards, these maps can be used by you for drawing your simple random or stratified random sample.
Thank you for the informative presentation. Today I have two doubts, a clarification I want. First of all, with regard to the definition of sex ratio in Indian census. Actually, in my understanding, in India the definition of sex ratio is number of females per 1,000 males. But I think only in India, this, I don't know what is any specific reason for this kind of definition. Or what's the reason of
this is true. This is true. Sex ratio is defined in two ways. Sex ratio traditionally it was in India it was defined as number of females per 1,000 males. In most other countries it is defined as number of males per 1,000 females. I do not know how Indian census started computing sex ratio in this way, but what we know that India is one of those very few countries where number of females is less than number of males. But there is no harm. If you want to calculate number of males per 1,000 females, that can also be done. That is not a problem. This is one overall sex ratio. If I say that India's sex ratio is 935, it means that on every 1,000 males we have 935 females. That means there is a shortage of 65 females. But these days we are sociologists are more interested in juvenile sex ratio. Last time in 2001 census we found that overall sex ratio improved, but juvenile sex ratio means sex ratio in the age group 0 to 6 declined. This was more worrisome. Overall sex ratio is improving, because in overall terms life expectancy for females is now more than life expectancy for males, which conforms to general universal pattern. Earlier this was not the case in India, but juvenile sex ratio is declining, and unfortunately juvenile sex ratio is declining more in socio-economically advanced states and regions. I was shocked to see when I found they have also calculated juvenile sex ratio for social groups. I did not imagine that juvenile sex ratio for Jains would be lowest. When I read 11th 5-year plan draft, the first time I noticed this, that sex ratio female to male among Jains is lowest. Jains, who are believed to be most supporter of non-violence, ahimsa. So, they practice ahimsa, their religion they practice ahimsa otherwise, but they do not consider female feticide to be part of hinsa. This is this is culture, or this is a property related question. So, in India sex ratio is defined in two ways: overall sex ratio, which tells us about overall situation of gender in the country, and 0 to 6 or juvenile, which tells us specifically about sex determination tests, illegal sex determination tests which are going on, and the problem of female feticide.
Thank you, sir. I have 3 questions. First is, you've talked about a sample registration system. You cross-check 2 sources of data. That, sir. So what I'm asking is that when you have that one source and there's a conflict between 2 sources, which is the one that ultimately prevails? How do you resolve this problem?
In India, sample registration system, as I said, is a dual record system. So, on a sample basis, in selected samples, urban and rural, continuous vital registration system is maintained, as in other parts of the country. But in these samples, periodic 6 monthly checks are also made through surveys, and events are matched, and better estimates of birth and death rates come. So, in India, we accord highest importance to estimates obtained from sample registration scheme, SRS. In India, because the rates which come from census, they come census data on fertility is not useful. It gives an overall idea of fertility, but it is deficient. There is a lot of under reporting, and the quality of data in census can be questioned. Vital registration system is particularly unreliable. So, in terms of reliability, vital registration system in India, which is the real source of data on births and deaths, that is at the bottom. Census somewhere in between. In census, by using analytical methods and data generated through asking questions, child born last year, total number of children ever born, we try to arrive at some estimate of total fertility rate, but SRS estimates are believed to be of sufficiently high reliability. The last time SRS gave us data, it was in 2009. SRS bulletin 2009 is the latest bulletin. I have some data on birth and death rates, and this tells that in India as a whole today, birth rate has declined to 22.8 per 1000 population. Death rate has declined to 7.4 per 1000 population, and the natural growth rate of India is 15.4 per 1000, that means 1.5. Census growth rate decadal 91 to 2000 was more than 2%, but this natural growth rate is for 2008 given in 2009 bulletin, and this is a more realistic. So, if you do not go deeper into the questions of reliability and validity, you can blindly collect data from SRS and use them. There is very high reliability and acceptance of SRS data worldwide. When it comes to estimation of rates in India by Indian experts or foreign experts, they depend largely on SRS, and SRS gives us statewide differences in birth rates, death rates, infant mortality rate. They also give us confidence intervals, and from time to time some specific issues like maternal mortality have also been taken up.
So, how do you differentiate between theoretical sampling and
Okay.
where you take help of census data?
Census data, census framework is used, when you go for
So you said is that we use the census data when we use the normal types of sampling, but then where do we use and what is theoretical sampling then? You talked about some theoretical sampling discussion, so could you just elucidate upon theoretical sampling?
Okay, it's a very interesting this sampling has been used by both quantitative researchers and qualitative researchers. Quantitative researchers go for probability and non-probability sampling, and in case they go for probability sampling, then they need a complete list of all the units. If they go for simple random, for example, or in stratified or other samples also, they may require the listing. That listing of people and areas comes from census information, because census has complete information up to the village or ward of the village level. Census tells you exactly locations of wards, households and people, and with the help of those you can know that Kanpur city, for example, consists of so many wards, and within wards these are the further divisions. So, you can decide that 20% or 10% of the wards will be selected on random basis, and you have the complete listing of wards. Similarly, within wards also you have complete data regarding patterns of habitation. That is to use quantitative or probability kind of sampling, which is part of quantitative research. Theoretical sampling term is used by qualitative researchers, and by theoretical sampling they mean selecting respondents in a manner that all kinds of variations can be covered. For example, somebody is working on the problem of menopausal problem among women. Now, in theoretical sampling, with the help of doctors or randomly at random or with the help of friends or that I know, or somebody some domestic servant or somebody approaches me and discusses her menopausal problem. So, I know that there is a case and I interview her. Then I will ask her that does she know any other woman who is facing post menopausal problem of different kinds. You know, this different kind is very important here. So, in theoretical sampling an attempt is made to cover all varieties of social phenomena.
Then is it not very similar to snowball sampling then?
Snowball sampling is also part of quantitative research, and in snowball, yes, snowball is something similar, but in theoretical sampling this emphasis on difference is there. In snowball, like one of my PhD students who collected data on MSM community from Mumbai, he used snowball sampling method. Once he reached the community, he used snowball with the help of NGOs or CBOs. He could identify some people, take them into confidence and collect data. Then he will ask, can they help him in connecting him to some other MSM in the community for collection of data? That is snowball. That is snowball. So, you keep on collecting data and the size of your data expands. But in theoretical sampling we want to include all possible variations. Like if I use theoretical sampling in the study of MSM, suppose so far I have collected data from one particular variety of MSM, say Kothis. So, all my samples are Kothis. Then I will ask my respondent, does he know any Panthi also, any MSM of a different type, Panthi or bisexual or double decker. I will ask whether he knows about any double decker, so that I am consciously trying to make an effort to cover all types of MSM, Kothis, Panthis and double deckers in my sample. That is theoretical. Here how many Kothis, how many double deckers is not important, but at least representation of all possible varieties of phenomenon is ensured.
Sir, this can be called respondent driven sampling. Is this the same?
Yes, yes.
We can
Yes.
call it respondent.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. That's all.
Okay, so we stop here. We have had 3 lectures on methods so far. On the first day, I made a distinction between quantitative and qualitative paradigms. On the second day, I took up various types of tools of data collection, and I discussed survey, focus group discussion, key respondents interviews, structured, unstructured interviews, field work, and participant observation method or participatory methods. Today, I have focused on different sources of data different sources of data on population in the Indian context particularly, and in the next lecture I will focus on participatory rural appraisal or participatory techniques of data collection. Thank you.